When we were creating this campaign, we had to come up with some entirely new game concepts. Again, not the first time this has happened. This is the great thing about these big Kickstarter projects. They take us to places we've never been, and I mean that in a metaphorical sense as well as in the game itself. And in this case, one of the things we had to come up with is, how do you map the whole trip from Charted Space to the Void Shore? Originally, I thought you could just generate dot map subsector maps for the journey ahead, maybe the subsector each side as well, and then when the travelers casually say, oh, let's scan all of those stars over there, you end up with a whole sector map, which then you have to work out as any points of interest. That way lies madness, and I would know. So we came up with something else. We came up with a way of abstracting parts of the journey. The journey as a whole is subdivided into what we call reaches, which is essentially a transit of a month or two, in which the travellers might just be travelling, they might just be transiting from one point to another, or other things might happen. Within a reach, there will be missions where we might, for example, say, let's scan that system for anything interesting. That's a mission. We would go there, and it would then be broken down, if necessary, into mission segments and specific operations that we carry out. So refueling the ship is an operation. Conducting a system scan is an operation. Sending out the ships to do a bunch of things, so sending out the small craft to do this, that would be a mission segment. And while that's happening, another group of the crew might be doing something different, a different mission segment. When the mission as a whole is complete, we move on with the reach. But other reaches are simply transits from one place to another. And it's here that we created a mechanic for abstracting the journey. So when we abstract a reach, it's a period as long as the referee decides it should be. We would advise it be no more than 2 months, which gives us time for maybe 5 to 7 jumps if we're in a hurry, or rather less than that if we're slowing down to have a good look round. And we have a maximum jump capability of jump 4, but we can't always do that on every jump, because sometimes it's not possible to find a source of fuel at every 4 parsec interval. So we have to plan our reach. You can do this if you scan the stars ahead and you can decide we're going to go to that one, and that one, and you always have that option. The referee can always plan a region in detail. And of course, this is where you have your pre-planned adventures set up. But when you're just advancing towards the goal and the travelers have said, right, we actually need to get there sometime this decade, then this is where we abstract a reach and we simply resolve, we travel from A to B, and what's the supply situation at the end? Do we encounter any points of interest? Does anything untoward happen? If it does, we have an adventure. If it doesn't, we plan our next reach. And thereby, we make progress towards the goal in between big events, adventures, and the occasional side trip into the completely unknown. The heart of the abstracted reach mechanism is the idea of speed of transit. How fast are you trying to go? If you are trying to simply forge ahead, then you're going to have to take some risks here. You're going to scan the systems ahead. You'll be able to tell if there's a gas giant from several parsecs away. So we can plan our route to actually have fuel, and most of the time we'll be right about that. When we're not, then obviously we have to stop and look for a source of fuel in the system, but that will happen very rarely because of the equipment Deepnight Revelation has. But if we are transiting fast, we tend not to find points of interest. We tend not to find evidence of a vanished civilization on a planet because we never scanned it properly. On the other hand, when we're transiting fast, there's more chance of something going wrong, overstraining equipment, crew becoming exhausted, more chance of a problem. The flip side of that, of course, is the longer the mission takes, the more certain it is that the ship will wear out, the crew will wear out. So the travellers are going to constantly be trying to balance speed of advance against the chance to have a good look round and see what there is, and also the need to actually get the mission completed. There are difficult choices to be made here, and there really aren't any perfect answers, but That's the point. And this system overall is designed to be modular. Each reach is self-contained, it is resolved. We get a supply situation, a crew situation at the end of it. Anything that's happened along the way can be resolved. And then we can plan another reach and another reach and another reach. Or we may come across a point of interest and decide, let's go and look at that. Or we might stumble upon a set-piece adventure. We expect to produce multiple expansion packs and also adventure packs for the campaign. And that depends very much on the stretch goals. It depends very much on how much support there is. But what we have envisaged at the moment is that there are 5 distinct regions that the travellers will pass through, and that there is an expansion pack for each of these. The flavour of each of these areas is different, and there is a mini campaign that will happen. Again, it will have a different flavour in each place. You could probably run each of these campaigns separately as a modular thing if you really wanted to, but they are designed ultimately to fit with the overall mission story arc, which is Deepnight Revelation went from charted space to the Void Shore, investigated Terminus Point, and then something happened. We'll get to that. There is room in the Deepnight Revelation campaign for a great variety of adventures. It's very difficult for us to write a tightly scripted adventure in which the travellers must do this, and then they must do this other thing, and then this other thing happens, because we don't know what state the ship will be in when it gets there. We don't know what sort of characters are going to be being played here. We can't predict how you will play this campaign. We've got a general idea of how it's likely to go down, but as they say, no plan ever survives contact with travellers. So it's very difficult for us to write tightly scripted adventures. What we can do is present a situation. Here is a situation, this is what it's like on this planet, this is what these people are doing, this is their agenda, this is how they react to the crew. But it's all completely wide open. One group of travellers might be, I don't like the term, but murder hobos. And they might just maraud their way across the galaxy, shooting everything in their path. You could do that, I suppose. Another group might end up getting involved in every humanitarian crisis everywhere and never actually reach Terminus Point because they're too busy flying around solving other people's problems. But we've seen that show. Somewhere in between is a situation where the travellers have an epic adventure, all kinds of things happen, which depend very much on the travellers and the referee and the interplay between them, and eventually they reach Terminus Point. So what does happen at Terminus Point? We'll get to that.